sunrise over the run. I like to think of this as our sun rising over our running bunny. Yeah. Rise over run. Rise over run. What does that mean? What that means, rise over run is slope. Rise meaning up, down. Run meaning left or right. M equals 2/3. Okay? We got our rise over our run. Rise over run. So what this means is we're going to start at a point on the graph. We're going to rise up 2. 1, 2. And then we're going to run over 3. 1, 2, 3. This would be our next point. And then you could do it again. Rise. 1, 2. Run. 1, 2, 3. Boom. There's our next point. Notice it's making a line. Okay? It's making a line. We took our handy dandy ruler, lined it up like so. That is a line with slope 2/3. Notice it's less than 1. It's not a 45-degree angle. 2/3 is less than 1. So this is a slope of 2/3. We're rising 1, 2. We're running 1, 2, 3. Now I got a question for you. Using our slope-based Mad Bunny, is this positive slope? Let's draw our picture and find out. So when you sit down for a test, you sit down for doing your homework, M for slope, negative eyebrows, negative, positive. Oh, it is positive slope. Great. So that is a good sign. Undefined, 0, you're my hero. Yay! Now let's do a little fraction review. 2/3, pretty easy. Now, what if I gave you M equals 1? That's not a fraction. How do I do rise over run? You got to turn it into a fraction. 1 group of 1. If M equals 5, you could divide it by 1. Divide it into 1 group. 1 group of 5. If M equaled -3, you could do -3 over 1. Now for negative sides, you could put that negative sign anywhere. You could have it in the front. You could have it at the top. You could have it at the bottom. Let's draw this slope here. Let's draw this one. So let's start at a point, any point, doesn't matter. It will matter when you're doing equations. You got to start on the line to draw the slope, but for this, we're just doing just slope. So we start at a point, right? Now the slope's -3. So negative slope, we're going this way. Our line better be going this way, or we don't have negative slope. And it's -3, so it's gonna be pretty steep. It's gonna be steeper than 45, so it's gonna be pretty steep, right? Here we go. Now, we're gonna use rise, -3. So we're gonna go down, 1, 2, 3. Then we're gonna go over 1. Notice this matches. This matches our line. This is what we think it should be. We're going down, 1, 2, 3, and over 1. Okay? You could just do up 3 over 1 and know you're doing negative slope. Like let's say we're here, right? And we go, oh, it's negative slope, so I know I'm going this way. Up 3, 1, 2, 3 over 1. I know I got to go that way. If I went that way, that'd be positive slope. 3 up, 1, 2, 3, and 1 to the left. So here is our -3 slope. Using rise over run, we plotted out all the points, and all the points line up beautifully to give us our -3 slope. Here we go. What is the slope of this line? Okay. Boop, boop. No ruler. Got it. Nailed it. What is the slope of this line? Here's what I do. Is it negative or positive slope? I'm going with negative because those match. Then let's count our rise over run. So we know M stands for slope. We know M is negative. So we'll put the negative sign in there, and then we want our rise over our run. You always want to go from a point on the grid. You see how this is on the grid? This is on the grid. This is not on the grid. This is on the grid. This is not on the grid. This is on the grid. You always want a point on the grid to a point on the grid. So since we did the negative on the front, we don't have to worry about up or down. We know it's negative slope. We're just going to, we don't have to worry about like left or right, up or down. You'll see. We got 1 up and 1 over. 1 up, 1 over. Our slope is 1 over 1, and we know it's negative. Okay, now we got to reduce that. That's going to get marked wrong because this is the simplified answer we want. M equals -1. This is a slope with -1. Now let's say you chose a different 2 points. Let's say you went from here to here. Okay? And let's do this a different way. Our rise is down 1, 2, 3. We went down 3, minus 3 for our rise. So rise is negative 3. And then we're going to run to the right, which is positive 1, 2, 3. So that gives us positive 3. Now, negative times a negative, there's only one negative here. So this is negative 1. 3 divided by 3 is 1. There's only one negative sign. It goes there. Good? We good? All right, let's try another one. Let's try this. So you want to use your face. Is it positive or negative? Slope. We'll do that first. And then use your rise over run to count. And again, see these little dots? They might not be on your graph. You might just have a line. But you have to count from a dot to a dot. You have to be on the grid. If you're off the grid, it's just not precise. Not precise. You want to be precise in math. If you need more time, pause it. Here's the explanation. Positive or negative slope. What eyebrow does that match? That is matching that positive eyebrow. It's more like that. But yeah, that's matching a positive eyebrow. All right. So we got our positive slope, not negative. This is our positive slope. That's that eyebrow. We'll take a point. Rise. 1. Run. 1, 2, 3. So this is positive slope. So it's m equals 1 rise over 3 run. It's a 1/3 slope. Positive, obviously from the eyebrow, and it's not that steep, so it's less than 1. That looks like it matches. We're good. All right, we're gonna do some trickier fraction work and then move on. What's the slope of this line? Rise, 0. First of all, here's how I think you should do it. Boop, 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 boop. See how those match? This is 0 slope, no slope, m equals 0, done. But if you want to see the fraction breakdown, since that's what we're talking about, let's get into it. We have rise of 0. We're not rising at all. And then our run could be, let's go over 1. Or we could do, our run could be 5 or whatever. But the point is, our rise is 0. And 0 divided by 1, if you have 0 and you put it in one group, you still have 0. If you have 0 things and you split it between 5 people, you still have 0. And there's a little thing here. If the 0 is over the bar, then it's 0. Because if we do infinite slope, how steep is that line? Infinite. Let's do a fraction of it. Let's do our fraction. So m equals, what's our rise? We're going from a point to a point. We can go from here to there if we wanted. Our rise is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Our run is 0. Left or right, you're not going anywhere. You're not running at all. You're just going straight up. Let's say we went 1 point. You know, you rise 1, you run 0. These are the same fractions. Now, it is impossible to split 6 things into 0 groups because that 6 has to go somewhere, right? Another way of thinking of this is how many zeros are in 6? How many groups of 0 are in 6? Well, infinite number of zeros into 6. So this is undefined. It's undefined. It's undefined slope again on our little guy here. This is undefined. That's what that U stands for. So a trick for fractions is if you have 0 under the bar, right? See how we have 0 under the bar? This is under. So we call it underfined or undefined. Under. The 0 is under the bar, undefined. If your 0's over the bar, then it's 0. So those are 2 options. Over, then it's 0. If it's under, then it's undefined. Over, 0, under, undefined. Now in the rare circumstance where you have 0 over 0, this is indeterminate. Like you can't determine it. Indeterminate. It also could be undefined, but it's definitely not 0. Okay, don't call this 0. I know the 0's over, but it's indeterminate or undefined. Let's do a little more fraction review with negative signs. So negative 7 over negative 5. Negative times a negative, negative divided by a negative is going to cancel out. If we had 3 negatives for some odd reason, you could cancel any 2 of these out and you'd be left with 1 negative. You write that negative in front. You could write that negative on top. You could write that negative on the bottom. It doesn't really matter. It's kind of your preference, although this is probably the most common. I'm going to quiz you real quickly. If we have 8 over 0, what does that equal? If we have 0 over 1, what does that equal? 3 as a fraction and negative 1 as a fraction. Okay? How do you write those as fractions? Pause it. I'm going to give answers if you don't want to hear it. This is under. Under. So it's undefined. This is over, right? So this is 0. 3 is a fraction, you just put a 1 under it. Negative 1, you just put a 1 under it. That turns into a fraction. Talk about reducing real quick. If you have 6 over 3, if you could divide the top and the bottom by the exact same number, you have an equivalent fraction. And if you are doing a test and you have something like 5 over 15 as your slope, if you have 5 over 15 as your slope, you're going to have to reduce. So we're going to divide by 5, divide by 5. That's going to give us 1 over 3. This is reduced. This is our answer.